Durham Region.
We wish to acknowledge that Canada is on Turtle Island, which is a vast territory of traditional landscapes of many Indigenous peoples who over time have occupied and made this land their home from time immemorial. The original peoples who began their journey taking those early footsteps in our creation stories across this land, some came from the stars and others came from the sky, and there were those who came from underground. But there's something important that they all share, and that is their stories of arrival to this land we call home on Turtle Island. Nindinawe Magani Duck, which means all my relations, which means we are all related.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Clarington Mayor Adrian Foster. Been a while since we spoke, and it's so good to have you back on the show. Welcome back.
It is always a pleasure. I will look forward to the time when we can do this face-to-face in the studio.
That is coming, my friend. Coming soon to a TV near you. We've got so much to talk about. I want to start with OPG's decision to move its headquarters from Clarington to Oshawa. Did this catch you totally unawares, or had you heard rumblings of their, change of plans?
There were minor rumblings, but our staff had been, had been and have been working on this for a while. So you always hear rumors. We fully understand the business decision. So with the pandemic, the cost of building went up significantly. So would have been obviously disappointed. This is a once in a lifetime. If you look at the employment density, the number of people going into one area, what angered us, and when I say us, it's beyond me. Council are angry, staff are angry. There was absolutely no engagement with any of the local property owners or the municipality. So we're in a position where there's a planning document that takes many years and a lot of money to create, called a secondary plan. That secondary plan was done in part to facilitate headquarters coming here, and that's staff time and cash. That's about $800,000 of taxpayers' money. My understanding from planning is that's thrown out the window. We need to restart. It throws into question the development to the west, which of course brings the Curtis Waterfront Park. So we're trying to figure out, because of the cost ramifications, it throws into question all of the marketing that we're trying to do down at the Energy Park. So OPG as a key stakeholder versus not a key stakeholder, and some of Durham Region's plans. And while we are hearing comforting things about the train, as you know, the province is requiring developers to build the train stations, the local developers right around where the station is supposed to be. If their plans to develop were timed based or partially based on OPG coming, if they're delayed, the train station is delayed. We should have had answers, and there should have been mitigating pieces in place before that announcement was made. And that is the truly frustrating part. So we understand it's your money, it's my money. OPG apparently saved, a huge amount of money not building, but taking over that building, the GM headquarters. But it's all the knockoff effects, which were either not considered or ignored. And we have supported that file. We've supported OPG. It would have been nice if there was some consideration. So we do find ourselves in a hole. We'll climb out of that hole. Things will be good, and we expect OPG to help us. So we'll see how that conversation goes.
Have you started conversations with OPG?
We have. I have had some very pointed discussions, and we've known each other a long time. My preference is to put a positive spin on things. But as I said, I am angry. Council is angry. Staff are angry. We need to mend relationships, and we will expect OPG to come up with some tangible commitments with an emphasis on commitment. On the nuclear file, one of the challenges is you hear about wonderful things to come, but we need commitments. Because we've heard about wonderful things time and time again. I started, as a volunteer on this file when ITER, if you remember the ITER project.
Oh yeah.
So that was probably the first work that I did on nuclear in Clarington, and boy, that's 20, 25 years later. We're still plugging away and trying to help. It's frustrating.
And as you said, $800,000 in the costs for planning and all those man hours. It's not chump change, and it's not the hours that you're going to get back.
No. So again, we need to revisit, redo that plan. And this is at a time when our planning staff are, they're underwater. We have so many things. The province is pushing so many things on us. Development, the number of developers coming with development applications, and you can't hire anyone is another issue. So true of every organization, we are posting jobs and in some cases not getting any applicants. It's a very strange world that we're living in today.
Kind of, unbelievable to think, that there were days where you'd post one job and you'd have 20, 30, 50 applicants for every job, and now you're having trouble filling it.
Yeah, well, and for a municipality. So 5 years ago, I would not have imagined myself making a comment like that. Jobs with a municipality, with a government were viewed, depending on your situation, as the be all and end all. Why would you not want to do those jobs? But the demand is such, it's tough for us to compete with private sector. And truthfully, an awful lot of what is going on is, we're swiping from a neighboring municipality who is swiping from us. But I can tell you, residents are frustrated with the snow clearing operations. For the first time ever, we've had for the last 2 snowstorms. For one, I think just the other day as well, idle plows for lack of people, which is something, I know we're going to talk about that later, something we put in the budget, are more, heavy operators so we can get this stuff. But in my time on council, I've, never seen that as an issue. We last summer gave money back to the federal government because we couldn't hire enough summer students. And typically, to your point, and so normally we'd have 100 applications for 10 spots. I'm making the numbers up, of course. But it is a bizarre world that we find ourselves in.
Well, let's move on to another large challenge that every municipality now is facing, and that's Ontario's Bill 23. Designed to increase the supply of affordable housing. But it hasn't been well received by many municipalities who are finding that basically you can't collect as much development dollars as you could before. It's limiting the development charges, correct?
Yeah, sort of. So Bill 23 is broad reaching in a whole variety of ways, many ways that we don't understand yet. We are still waiting for confirmation. So, the public with the green belt and the lands coming out of the green belt, people were quite upset and focused on that, and rightly so in some cases. But 23 seems to have gone under the radar. So for For some types of development, and we need to get a definition of that development for affordable housing, we will receive less in development charges than we did in the past, but we don't have a definition yet of what that is going to look like. So it's difficult for the region and for Clarington to figure out what the net impact is. And of course, what we don't get in development charges has to go on the property tax bill. I mean, there's just no other source of that money. And development charges, they do things like build roads, libraries, arenas, all of that stuff. So as more people move in, the things that we need more of, there's less money to build that. So again, it needs to come from somewhere, and guess where it's coming from?
Yeah, because you can't run a deficit as a municipality.
We can't. So we have to balance. But beyond the hit on the development charges, parkland dedication was cut in half for any development, which to my mind is completely contrary to where we need to go. So we've come through the pandemic. We've recognized how important the ability for people to get into parks, enjoy the outdoors is. We're moving into a world where far higher density is coming, and we can't control that. So we've got more density, an understanding of how valuable access to green space is, and a cutting in half of what developers have to provide for green space. If anything, it should have gone the other way. So we've got applications that we can't say no to in Bowmanville for a couple of 25-story buildings. We've never had anything that tall. We will be seeing more of that. It defies logic to think that you can bring in that density and have parks half the size. So again, if we're going to keep the quality of life, we're going to need to acquire those lands, and if we want to do that, guess where the money has to come from? And so anyone watching this understands we have not made any decisions. I don't want anyone going away, staying awake tonight about what their taxes in the future are. But these are very real issues with 23. 23 also puts in place penalties if we do not process applications quickly enough. We give money back to the developers.
Oh, really?
So we're losing money for park. We're losing some money, and it's not defined on development charges. And now if we don't work quickly enough to get applications approved, we're giving money that we would have had back to the developers. And we just talked about the challenge of hiring staff.
Yeah.
And then to make the challenge of hiring staff worse, there were changes to the conservation authorities. So the conservation authorities will no longer be responsible for some of the things that need to be done to protect the environment. We need to do that, which means more staff, but I can't hire staff. And then the province is talking about a far reduced role at Durham Region for planning. So things that Durham Region used to do, we are going to have to do, which means once again, more staff, and you question where the money's coming from. So there are a number of things. As of right, every residence can be a triplex. So the house beside your house can be turned into a triplex. Again, no development charges on that. So I've got a library that is now serving 3 families instead of 1, and there is no process that the public can come and complain about the triplex. Someone from Toronto buys that as an investment. They say that they want to turn that into a triplex. They simply do it. And now we scratch our heads on parking. So you've got 3 families. Yeah,
that's a very real issue.
Right. So the impacts from 23 are huge. And you're talking about how it was done. It was done immediately after the election, with absolutely no ability for municipalities to or councils to comment on it. Thank you. This is therapy. You send me a bill for the therapy session.
Okay.
But
I was just going to say, on that note, we need to go to break. I just want to hold you there. We are in conversation with Clarington Mayor Adrian Foster. Stay with us. More after the break.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
This is Rogers TV.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. The therapy session continues for Clarington Mayor Adrian Foster, getting out all his frustrations around Ontario's Bill 23. You know, you were talking about the real frustrations at not being consulted and the timing when this went down. Taking it that the province never reached out to municipalities. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of other mayors as well. And it was just, this is the way it's going to be. There you go, deal with it.
Yeah, so again, immediately after the election, it came in a proclaimed exceptionally quickly without an opportunity. Thinking, Deborah, the Lucy and Charlie Brown, the doctor is in. Was that 5 cents? That was. Yeah. I'm dating both of us. I'm sorry.
I get it. It's okay.
Yeah, it was honestly. The public didn't have an opportunity. So as we were talking about, as of right, a triplex, the issue with where people are going to park cars, just the impact on the community. So far more people coming in, less money to provide the amenities that we are used to with those amenities. And a great deal of the frustration that you will hear from mayors right across the GTHA is a notion that the municipalities need to get their act together to provide for more housing units. So, if only municipalities would get permits, stuff approved more quickly. And trust me, we are slow, we are awkward, the process needs to be fixed. There's always good stuff in legislation, even if you ignore some of it. But Clarington has about 4,500 units that builders could come and pull permits. So we don't give permits. The builders, the developers need to come to the counter and ask for permits. We get everything ready to go. I don't know what the current number was. A while ago, the big cities mayors of Ontario identified about 250,000 units that shovels could go in the ground literally the next day. So 4,500 units for Clarington. On average, builders build just over 800 units. We have many years' supply just waiting to be picked up. Today, the builders can't get materials. They can't get staff.
Yeah. That's what's holding it up.
Right.
It's not the permits. It's they have everything ready to go and they can't get the materials.
Yeah. So a lot of these, the rules and regs in place, it beats me. We talk about the development charges for affordable. We're curious to see how the province is going to make sure that those development charge reductions come back into the pricing and aren't simply put back in the pockets of the folks who are doing the development. There's nothing. The market identifies the price of things, right? So it's frustrating. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I can tell you feel sometimes your head is just gonna, that's it, explode. we're running out of time. We've only got about 7 minutes left. So I want to move on to the budget. And the Clarington budget. You've said on the municipal portion of your residents' taxes a 4.06% increase. Were you happy with that, or I'm sure you would have liked it to be a lot less?
So we would always like it to be less. I would love to be able to do 0% increases, or better yet, write checks to people to make them smile. 4% is a little bit over 4, well below inflation. And when we understood that this year, as people are getting used to the impact of inflation, we'll call it 6.5%. It depends on what you're looking at. People need to catch up, and particularly, we both noticed it in the food store. How some of the seniors, young families who are managing huge mortgage, perhaps a couple of kids in daycare. I don't know how they are coping. On the other hand, if municipalities constantly bring budgets in below inflation, because our inflation is not CPI, our inflation is more tightly tied to the construction index, which was running at 18%. And again, that's what drove OPG's decision is the cost of building things. If we constantly come in below inflation, we need to start cutting services, which cuts quality of life. So coming in at 2/3 of inflation would have been nice to come in lower. But the reality is, if we're going to continue to provide those services that people want, and the expanded services, because no one comes to me and tells me to cut something, they come in and they ask us to do more for them. We want to make progress. So I could have been happier, but I could have been a lot sadder.
Some important parts of this budget, you say staffing needed to be increased, and some of those staff will also be finding efficiencies.
Yeah, so a couple of things, depending on when this airs. We've gone through a couple of big snowstorms, and after every snowstorm, we get complaints because of the snow clearing. We've got a couple of operators. We've had challenges around the snowstorms, and as the municipality gets bigger, there are more roads, so we need equipment. The timeline on getting the equipment is a challenge. So that's another outcome of the pandemic that's a little bit odd. But two of the positions, they are focused at looking at efficiencies within the organization. And I guess the story I'm telling is, imagine you get out of a taxi and you've left a bag in the taxi. If you're too busy running after the taxi to try to get the bag, you don't think to jump into another taxi when you can actually catch up and get your bag. Clarington has been in that position where we've identified through some reports and studies efficiencies that are out there, but staff are so busy doing what they need to get done, whether it's putting new programs in, automating processes. We've been doing a number of things that could have been improved for a while. So the two staff members, in theory, next year when we look at the budgets, the cost that we put in the budget this year won't appear for those members, because they should find multiples of what it costs. In one of them, and the report came forward, I think we were looking at $500,000 in possible efficiencies, coming from one department alone. So we're really looking forward to that. And we, Clarington we're getting big. We need to modernize.
Also, physician recruitment. That's a real issue.
It's a huge issue. It's an interesting story on that. If people recall, many years ago, we had a shortage. Clarington went out and hired professional consultants to do physician recruitment. We brought them back for reports, and we were getting absolutely nowhere. This was with the professionals doing it. At the time, the Board of Trade came to council with a group of doctors. The group of doctors said, look, we're going to help the Board of Trade. Instead of paying the professionals, allow us to run this. And they were incredibly successful. It was It was an interesting lesson in what a community can do as opposed to hired guns, and the community did far better. We are looking at doing precisely that again. We've put aside $100,000 this year in the budget. The Board of Trade and the doctors group need to come back with some specifics around the program. In total, it could be $500,000 that we're looking at. But oddly enough, Sheila Hall, who's the executive director of the Board of Trade, was in Ottawa with a number of us for the Canadian Nuclear Association. And one of the counselors from Kincardine was talking about physician recruitment, how they had gone out, they had hired, the professionals to come and do it. Professionals failed miserably. They got a group and doctors together. Essentially, they did what we did and were successful. So they're at least amongst two municipalities, there seems to be a theme here. Yeah, but sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, what I find alarming is the stats that 60% of the 100,000 visits to urgent care in Clarington have no family doctor. And that's up 43%, from 2018. Yeah. So it's an issue that has to be addressed.
And not just here. So the challenge, in theory, we should not be spending taxpayers' money on this. This is a Ministry of Health thing. Local municipalities aren't supposed to have to. The sad reality is we are competing with other municipalities. Yeah. While you feel bad, we need to take care of folks here. So there is a shortage, and that's not getting any better.
Okay, we only have about a minute left. I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to most about the coming year?
Oh gosh, there are a bunch of things out there on the horizon. So one, moving forward on the OPG. So what is the marketing? Can we move forward with the waterfront? We should hear some news on the GO train in the next few months. Hopefully something very positive. So I'm frustrated today. I want to see all of those frustrations wiped away, and and there's a way to do that, right? We just need to pull in the right direction and turn those frustrations into accomplishments.
Okay. And on that, we are out of time. Clarington Mayor Adrian Foster, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much again for spending time with us.
Debra, anytime. And it is a pleasure. And we'll look forward to sitting with you, face to face in the studio.
Okay. And thanks to all of our viewers for tuning in as well. Until next time, I'm Debra Hutchison. Bye for now.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Behold Emily Carr, painter, about to encounter the force that will consume her life.
How tightly they sealed their secrets from me, humble and pleading before the great trees, awaiting the invitation from the Spirit to come meet me halfway. Nothing is still now, everything is alive. At last, I knew I must see through the eye of the totem itself, the mythic eye of the forest.
Seldom able to live by her brush, before she died in 1945, Emily Carr was in the first rank of Canadian painters.
This is my country. What I want to express is here, and I love it. Amen.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger, tied tight, united.